Greetings. My name is Kenyela Horn. I am 13 years old, and I am a proud member of the Scotch Plains chapter of New Jersey Orators. Today, I will present in the category of declamation. I will recite an excerpt of a presentation by Dr. Joy Leary DeGrew titled, "And How Are the Children?" Dr. Joy, as most know her, is a world-renowned researcher, educator, presenter, and author of the very informative book titled Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. In Dr. Joy's presentation, she often discusses how the stress from slavery is causing modern-day issues and is being passed down through generations. This stress may even affect our future generations if it is not handled properly. I chose this presentation because I liked many of the lessons Dr. Joy shares to help empower African American children. She says it is important for African American children to know the following. 1. We all have a God and loved ones who will be there for us as we face the challenges that are a result of slavery. 2. African Americans come from a legacy of greatness. And 3. We are not descendants of slaves, but we are descendants of captured free men. And How Are the Children gave me an idea. I believe all schools need to allow children to discuss cultural relations so that children will have more respect for each other. I was encouraged to share this excerpt of And How Are the Children because it speaks of a 12-year-old girl who is challenged by her mother to have her own identity, even though it's hard sometimes not to follow a crowd. And now I present to you an inspiring excerpt of And How Are the Children? My children grew up in America, so it's a constant battle. I have to get them at the door and unbrainwash them every day. When my youngest daughter was 12, I noticed that the friends she was attracting seemed to be self-centered and mean-spirited. Because if you really want to know who your children are, like seeketh like, and taketh pleasure in the company of its own kind. And it's really an easy recipe. All you got to do is look at who they attract, because you attract what's like you. And if you're attracting slime, then you've got some cleaning up to do in yourself. I suspected that my daughter had fallen victim to peer pressure, so I broached the subject of character. I shared with her that when I was in junior high school, there were several different cliques that people belonged to. There were the popular kids that always had the nicest clothes and knew the latest dances and music. There were the nerds that were smart in class but lacked social skills. The tough kids that were always in fights or bullying someone. The jocks that were held in esteem because of their athletic skills. The poor kids that stayed to themselves to avoid becoming the brunt of jokes and teasing. And then there were the rest of the regulars that went unnoticed and wandered about the fringes of the other groups. I asked my daughter, who was she at school? And what was her group? And was the person that she was at school consistent with the person that she is at home? She became noticeably uncomfortable and didn't offer an answer to my inquiry. She didn't have to. It showed all over her face. I began to explain how at one point I had found myself surrounded by people whom I neither liked or trusted, and how I had to look at myself closely to determine what I had in common with them that attracted them to me. I offered as an insight that I had to accept the fact that I had qualities that were in need of change. and how difficult it was to remake myself. I told her how I decided to be a different person when I returned to school the next day, and how no one believed the new Joy, and how they tried to involve me in the same activities and behaviors, and how I refused to participate. After a couple of weeks, they eventually stopped coming around and relegated me to the staff.